It's 1974. Mel Brooks has just finished a movie. Warner Brothers calls it disgusting and vulgar. The studio chairman threatens to bury it. And Mel Brooks, in front of that man, picks up his notes, crumples them, and throws them in the trash. Blazing Saddles made $119 million on a $2.6 million budget. 3 Oscar nominations.
I believe it. And name one of you friends and neighbors kind of gather around and holy shit!
And 50 years later, people still can't stop talking about it. But the version most people know barely scratches the surface. Behind the farts and the fourth wall is a story full of drunk actors, a singer who had no idea, a lawsuit from an actual Hollywood legend, and a civilian who accidentally walked into the final scene and got left in the movie. These are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Blazing Saddles. Stick around for number 15. It's the one that almost killed the whole film. Fact 1. The script had 5 writers, 1 cocaine vial, and a bottle of brandy. Blazing Saddles has 5 credited writers. And the writer's room operated exactly how you'd expect for a movie like this. When Mel Brooks brought Richard Pryor in to help write Sheriff Bart, they sat down together in a Warner Brothers conference room. According to Scott Saul's biography, Becoming Richard Pryor, Pryor settled into his chair, calmly pulled out a locket, tipped cocaine onto the table, and snorted it without missing a beat. He offered some to Brooks. Brooks replied, "Never before lunch." That's how the script started. 5 writers, one of the greatest comedies ever made, and apparently an open bar of recreational substances at the table. Brooks has always said Pryor's voice was the reason the script had teeth, and based on how it began, that tracks. Fact 2. Pryor was supposed to star, then he wasn't. Here's the part that still stings. Sheriff Bart wasn't just written with Richard Pryor's voice, it was written for Richard Pryor to play. Before production, Pryor was arrested on drug-related charges. Warner Brothers declared him uninsurable and flatly refused to cast him. Brooks pushed back hard, but eventually a deal was struck. Pryor keeps his writing credit. The role gets recast. It was actually Pryor who helped find a replacement. He and Brooks auditioned around 100 actors before Cleavon Little walked in. Brooks described him as this beautiful, sculptured, laid-back man. Pryor's self-assessment was more direct. "I'm coffee-colored and have a mustache. I look Cuban." Little was extraordinary in the role, but you can't watch Blazing Saddles without wondering, at least once, what the other timeline looks like. Fact 3. The first Waco Kid showed up actually drunk. The Waco Kid role first went to Gig Young. Oscar winner, respected actor, seemed like a solid fit. Day 1 of filming, the scene where the Waco Kid hangs drunkenly from the jail cell bunk. The performance was convincing, dangerously convincing. Brooks described what happened. "We hung him upside down in the jail cell and green stuff started spewing out of his mouth." Gig Young wasn't acting, he was in genuine alcohol withdrawal and collapsed on set. His agent explained he was a recovering alcoholic. Brooks: "He hasn't recovered yet." Brooks shut down for 1 day and called Gene Wilder, who, by his own account, didn't ask to read the script, didn't ask about the role, just got on a plane. He was on set the next morning. Gig Young sued Warner Brothers. Gene Wilder delivered one of the best comedy performances of the decade. The accidental recast was the right cast. Fact 4. John Wayne loved the script and still said no. Before the gig, Young Disaster, Brooks went after the biggest name in westerns, John Wayne. Wayne read the script. He laughed out loud. He told Brooks it was hilarious. And then he said he couldn't do it. Too dirty, too raw. He did say, "I'll be the first one in line to see it." Meanwhile, in 1974, John Wayne made a Dirty Harry knockoff called MCQ that nobody remembers. He passed on one of the greatest comedies ever made and did that instead. Brooks also offered the Waco Kid to James Garner. Garner also passed. The role went to the guy who showed up on 1 day's notice, and it was perfect. Plan B keeps winning in the story. Fact 5. The singer had no idea it was a comedy. The opening theme of Blazing Saddles is a sweeping, earnest cowboy ballad that sounds like the intro to a serious western. That's because the man singing it thought it was. Mel Brooks hired Frankie Lane, the voice behind the rawhide theme, and simply never told him it was a parody. Brooks worried Lane would hold something back if he knew the truth, so he kept quiet. Lane gave it everything. 8 takes on the arrangement, total sincerity. He found out Blazing Saddles was a comedy when he went to see it at his local cinema. He found the whole thing hilarious, and the result was so convincing as a real cowboy theme that it has been played non-ironically in the western section of Disneyland's Frontierland. The fake theme fooled a theme park. Fact 6. Cleavon Little was blindsided by the film's most famous line, "You know the moment." After Bart is greeted with a racial slur by a sweet-looking old lady, he retreats to his office, and the Waco kid says quietly, "You know, morons." Gene Wilder knew that line was coming. Cleavon Little did not. Brooks deliberately kept it from him so his reaction would be real. And it is. That beat where Little's face shifts from hurt to disbelief to something almost like relief, that's not acting. That's a man genuinely processing what just came out of Gene Wilder's mouth in real time. Brooks did this on purpose. He believed the funniest reaction was always the genuine one. Little never broke. He matched Wilder's timing perfectly, and the scene became one of the most quoted in the whole film. Fact 7. Slim Pickens was never told. It was a comedy. While Frankie Lane's story is funny, Slim Pickens' story is something else entirely. Slim Pickens, former rodeo champion, cast as the villain's hulking henchman Taggart, was reportedly never informed that Blazing Saddles was a spoof. He played every scene like he was in a completely serious western. Total conviction, zero irony, a man who genuinely believed he was the villain of a real cowboy movie. To prove how committed he was, to prepare for the role, Pickens spent most nights during production sleeping outdoors with his rifle. He was method acting his way through a Mel Brooks comedy, and nobody told him otherwise. Brooks never corrected him, and that deadpan seriousness made every joke land harder. When a man who thinks he's in True Grit walks into a scene from Airplane, the comedy writes itself. Fact 8. Mel Brooks deliberately made the farts louder. Before 1974, audible flatulence had never appeared in a mainstream theatrical film. The campfire scene in Blazing Saddles is genuinely the first time it happened. That's not a bit, it's film history. Brooks knew the audience was going to lose it, so he made a very deliberate decision. He made the fart sound effects louder than they needed to be. His reasoning was pure craft. If the sounds couldn't cut through the laughter of a full theater, the scene would fall apart. So he engineered them to be heard over the noise. Then the movie went to TV. Every single fart was removed by network censors. The scene still exists. The cowboys still react. The sound is just gone. One of cinema's great historical comedy moments became a silent film about beans every time it aired on television. Mel Brooks had to live with that. Fact 9. The real Hedy Lamarr sued. The joke predicted the lawsuit. Harvey Korman's villain is named Hedley Lamarr, and the running joke is that everyone keeps calling him Hedy by mistake, which sends him into a rage. That's Hedley! Hedy Lamarr, the actual legendary Hollywood actress, did not find this funny. She sued Mel Brooks. Brooks later said he was flattered, which is possibly the most Mel Brooks response imaginable. The case was settled out of court. But here's the part that makes it even better. The line where Korman's character threatens to sue Hedy Lamarr was improvised on Harvey Korman's first day of filming, before any lawsuit existed. The joke predicted the lawsuit then made the joke funnier. Life spent a year chasing the film around a parking lot. Fact 10. The studio chairman's notes got crumpled up to his face. When Warner Brothers chairman Ted Ashley saw the finished film, he hated it. He called it disgusting and vulgar, prepared detailed notes on everything that needed to be cut, the language, the jokes, almost certainly the farts, and sat down with Mel Brooks to go through them. Brooks listened, let him finish, and then crumpled the notes up and threw them in the trash in front of him. When asked about it later, Brooks explained, "Why listen to anything? I would have had an 11-minute movie." Ashley threatened to bury the film. Brooks didn't flinch. It went out exactly as intended, made $119 million, and Ted Ashley is remembered primarily as the man who almost didn't release Blazing Saddles. Fact 11. The premiere guests arrived on horseback Hollywood premieres. Red carpet, limos, designer suits. You know the drill. The Blazing Saddles premiere guests arrived on horseback. That's it. That's the entire fact. In Hollywood, in 1974, on actual horses. The man who made a film designed to dismantle every Western cliché through a premiere that lovingly embraced all of them. It is one of the most perfectly on-brand decisions in film marketing history. And given everything we know about this production, it was also somehow the least chaotic thing that happened. Fact 12. Mongo's horse punch was inspired by a real incident. Alex Karras, an actual NFL defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions, played Mongo, the enormous strongman who rides into town on an ox and knocks a horse out with one punch. That gag came from real life. Mel Brooks' former boss, comedian Sid Caesar, allegedly knocked a horse unconscious in real life. Brooks filed that information away and eventually put it in his movie. The horse in the film was trained to fall on command, no animals were harmed, and Karras committed to it with the energy of a man who does not consider this weird at all. Karras later became famous for Webster, but he'll always be Mongo first, and Mongo's answer to every problem will always be the punch. Fact 13. Madeline Kahn got the role because she was fired from another movie. Madeline Kahn's performance as Lily von Stupp, the exhausted German cabaret singer doing a full Marlene Dietrich parody, earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. It's one of the great comedy performances of the decade. She only got it because she was fired from something else. Kahn had been cast in Mom, a big-budget musical starring Lucille Ball. She was let go before production started, which opened up her schedule for Blazing Saddles. Mame came out the same year, and was a critical and commercial disaster that's now largely forgotten. The role she got fired into earned her an Oscar nomination. The role she got fired from is a trivia footnote. Sometimes getting the axe is the best thing that can happen to you. Fact 14. A random civilian walked into the final scene and got left. In the finale of Blazing Saddles, breaks the fourth wall so hard it leaves a dent in reality. The brawl crashes through a studio wall, spills out onto the actual Warner Brothers lot, and chaos pours into the real world. While filming this sequence outside the studio gates, a man in a sweater wandered into the shot. Not a cast member, not an extra, just a guy walking by who had no idea a movie was being made. The crew tried to wave him off. He didn't understand what was happening. He stood there. He ended up next to a lamppost as the entire cast streamed past him. Brooks sent someone out with a release form. The man signed it. Brooks left him in the movie. He's in there, no lines, no credit. Just a confused man in a sweater who took a wrong turn and accidentally became part of film history. Fact 15. The test screening saved the ending. The studio wanted to cut. After the crumpled notes, Warner Brothers still had one big problem. They did not understand the ending, the finale, where the brawl spills onto the studio lot, characters end up in a theater watching Blazing Saddles, and Bart rides off into the sunset in a limousine, was unlike anything ever put in a studio film. Executives were baffled. One reportedly asked Brooks why everyone leaves the movie at the end. Brooks' answer: because it's over. Brooks pushed for one test screening before any cuts were made. For the first 20 minutes, the audience sat in silence. The suits in the back were convinced they were right. Then the cowboys sat down around the campfire and started eating beans. The theater exploded and didn't stop. The ending that executives wanted removed got one of the loudest reactions of the whole film. Brooks walked out with every joke intact, every fart, every crumpled note, the whole film, exactly as he made it. Blazing Saddles opened February 7th, 1974, $119 million, 3 Oscar nominations. And 50 years later, it's still the most anarchic, brilliant, impossible movie a studio ever tried to kill. 15 facts, 1 movie. And somehow Mel Brooks still had to fight for every single frame of it. Which, one broke your brain. The cocaine writer's room? Slim Pickens sleeping outside with a rifle for a comedy he didn't know was a comedy? The guy in the sweater? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe if you want more of this every week. See you next time.